to the Love City Arts Podcast. I'm Andre in the Flow. I wanted to create a space where artists could come together and encourage all of humanity through the arts. So welcome to that space. For more information, to follow my journey and the journey of all of our artists, visit andreintheflow.com and lovecityarts.org. Please enjoy today's episode, and thanks for listening. Hi there, and hello everybody, and welcome to the Love City Arts Podcast. I'm Andre in the Flow, and this week I'm joined by the amazing Aeisha Reese. She is a miracle. She's also a performer, a musician, a minister, a motivator, all of those things based in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm so glad to have you on the show this week. Welcome, Aeisha.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
It's
Andre.
an honor. It's an honor for me to have you here. We have, oh my gosh, we've sung together in multiple states. We met in Virginia. We've spent time together here in Brooklyn, and so just to have you here and to present your story of love that's just filled with all kinds of love, both here on the earth and beyond, with my listeners, is an honor. Tell me about, as we begin, what love means to you.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful question. It's interesting that you asked me this because today, as I was on Facebook, I noticed a lot of people were articulating what they felt love was and what it meant and how we should live in love. But in all actuality, I don't think anyone with our capacity of a human brain could ever fathom what true love is. Because the love that I go by is agape, which is God's unconditional love, a love that is undescribable, a love that loves those that hurt you, those that may seem as though to offend you. Like love, that kind of love is something that I don't think without a higher power anyone could ever process. That's something that without the assistance of what I call the Holy Spirit, that you could never process that. You could never filter it. It's something that you yourself have to surrender to. Once you embrace that, that love allows you to enter a supernatural peace. To me, that's what love is. Love is an undying, unconditional gift that God has granted us. It's an honor and a privilege to expound on that, to have that love.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you're speaking directly to, for our listeners today, a decision came down from the Supreme Court of the United States that upheld, I don't speak his name personally on the air or otherwise, the current administration has a president, and that person, God bless him, and that person has a certain opinion about a certain segment of the population in certain countries, and the Supreme Court decided today that they would uphold a ruling that would ban certain people from those countries from coming here, and it's created such a ruckus, and it created such a, I got out of bed this morning and was like, this is gonna be a positive day, this is gonna be an awesome day, I'm feeling motivated, I had a very great weekend, celebrating all levels of love at Pride, and now this, and it hit me. It hit me just like running into a wall at about 75 miles per hour. And you're right. There was a lot of outcry, online about how hurtful it was. There were also lots of calls to love, and a lot of that love, while valid, was anchored in love one to another. And what you're saying is you're taking a step further. Instead of the love being a horizontal kind of love that's playing out, us right across from each other, you're also infusing that love with something that's more vertical, something that's more divine, something that comes from something outside of ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
That's
so how does that love um change the way you navigate these streets?
well, it allows me to have a different type of perspective. You know, we've been conditioned in this society to um I like to call it have a you hit me, I hit you back type of reaction
Mhm,
where you do this for me, I do that for you. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. You treat
mhm.
me this way, I treat you that way. I mean, come on, it's a common human law that we've been conditioned since we were babes. And you know, it's just a human natural instinctive thing.
Yeah,
That's what we've been taught, right?
and
Morally.
I'm gonna interject as well that like the introduction of social media into our lives has made it even more
Mm, exactly.
has made us more reactionary in that like now like I've noticed when you play a video on Facebook, the moment that the video ends, there's a pop-up that asks you how you feel about it. Are you the happy face?
Mhm.
Are you the sad face? Are you the shocked face? Are you the love face? Are you the angry face? There's this constant push to make us react
Yeah,
immediately to what we're encountering.
exactly. Exactly.
And your love is causing you to have a different perspective.
Exactly. This divine love that I speak to you about that I call agape, well, not me, it's in the word, it's called agape. It when you have this type of love in your heart, when you allow it to enter, because you have to be willing, when you're willing to let that love into your heart, someone could spit in your face and it would not even affect you because you have a totally different outlook and perspective because we set expectations on the wrong things. We have expectations on humans, how they should treat us, what they're supposed to give us. They're supposed to give me this respect. They're supposed to be this certain way to me or treat me this way. But or they're supposed to be here at this certain time. They're late. They're supposed to have my back on this. Oh, they bailed out on me. Wrong choice to have expectations on. The only one, this agape love, it teaches you the only one that you have expectations on is our Father in heaven. When you have that expectation on that, you will never fail. It doesn't matter if someone's late. It doesn't matter if they didn't show up. It doesn't matter if they did not have your back because you know God will always have your back. You know that He will never fail. You know that even if that person is late, it was a part of the plan and that it's going to correlate with your life and work out perfectly. If someone does spit in your face, it wouldn't even have an effect on you.
I was going to ask you about that because there are some listeners that may be saying right now, like, okay, I can deal with a Supreme
Yeah.
Court ruling, I can deal with someone being late to my party, I can even deal with somebody showing up to a date, a pizza date night, but spit in my face, like, like, spit in my face, like,
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a really big one. And again, that takes see the thing is that, you know, we've been conditioned the other way, but the other one takes conditioning as well. I call it having the mind of Christ, where this supernatural being was treated a completely wrong way and literally died for people that didn't deserve it. That is a totally different type of. It takes time. It's a type of conditioning which I'll call having the mind of Christ, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Someone spit in your face. I mean, come on, that's a big thing. You know what I'm saying? Even me myself, I'm like, okay, it would take every bone in my body not to react. You understand what I'm saying? But I only mention that as an example to say that offense, like any type of offense that someone does to you, that you hold a power. We all have power. We can allow someone that comes to try to shake us or stir us to take that power. If we allow them, if us reacting in a negative way with negativity, what does that do? That allows them to take our power. That says that, oh, you have the power. You have the power to change my mood. You have the power to change how I'm operating. You have the power to take my peace. But if you operate in that agape, if you operate in that divine love, nothing can shake your peace, your inner you. Nothing can.
I've been it's so awesome to hear you say that because I think day before yesterday I put on my social media um this notion that while all of the world wants us to feel powerless, and while so many politicians and people that are in quote unquote power want us to feel
Mhm.
powerless, we're actually
Mhm.
right now the exact opposite if we choose to align ourselves with a different way of being, a different way of thought, a different power.
Yeah.
And so you just spoke directly to that. Like, we're not as powerless as we sometimes feign to be, but we actually have all of the power required in order to meet these conditions of life. I was
Yeah.
just going to ask you, when did you first feel love in your life?
Mm.
When did you first settle into knowing
It's
that you were loved?
interesting. For me, I didn't grow up in a household where, my mom would say, "Oh, I love you, I love you." Like, she didn't do that because for her, that wasn't how she grew up because she took care of her mom since she was 15 years old. And so
Mm,
it wasn't something that she was accustomed to. For me, love was an action. It was based upon what someone did. If you provide, if you make sure that clothes are on my back, if you do X, Y, and Z, and it same goes for my father as well. To me, it was what people did that showed that they loved me. But I had to learn that that was a different type of love. That was love. I mean, actually, in all actuality, that was love. But that wasn't the actual love that we were just speaking about prior to this.
yeah, that's a
The,
food, clothing,
the
shelter kind of love.
exactly. And when I first actually felt that the divine love that we were speaking of, that agape, I would say it had to be when I first moved to New York City, and I was in 2014 I was diagnosed with this disease called Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. And I had to endure a emergency surgery, which is called a colostomy surgery. And so there were so many different things that occurred in my life at that time, but one thing I can tell you, I felt love in so many areas of my life, even though it was a traumatic situation, obviously for myself, enduring like different levels of pain and agony and stress and receiving a new type of body. But the surrounding, the things that were surrounding me allowed me to feel that divine love. I mean, even the people in my life at that time, I had just met this person, and his name was Emmanuel, which is interesting. This person, his name was Emmanuel, which is what they call Christ, on earth.
Yeah, and our listeners should know that Emmanuel translates biblically into God with us.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so that's powerful that you were hooked up to God, even in name
And,
alone, you know, while you were going through
right.
that. But go on. So you meet Emmanuel.
Yeah, and the thing with him was like he was so like he was there like through everything. I had just met this person, but he ensured that my mom, when she flew in, when all this was going on, that she was peaceful. He ensured that I was peaceful. He was there throughout the entire the process that was happening, and the surgery, everything. And then, of course, I was able to. It's so interesting because at that time in my life, I didn't really have any interest in being a part of a church or anything. For me, I was so about being on Broadway, 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 Broadway. Because for my school showcase, I had opportunities to hop right on board with the Book of Mormon and Beautiful, like all these different shows that I was like in alignment for. And I'm like, that's all that matters to me. Like, I was like, listen, I have these meetings with these casting directors. listen, they want to sign me on these tours, they want to sign me on Broadway. That was my main purpose in life at that time, okay? So the fact that I ended up meeting a group of people, I like to call it a community, a family even, of people at this church called the Rock Church. These people they're based on the performing arts. So it's very out of the box of what you would even think a church is. And they happen, I like to say that they found me because I had no intention of being a part of it at all, like being in church. And I remember I even said a little prayer. I was like, listen, the only way I would be in church is if you place me in it yourself. And that's exactly what he did.
Did you
Auditioning
have
for
did you
Beauty
have
and the
an
Beast.
did you have an aversion to church or something beyond wanting to pursue Broadway and wanting to be casted in a role? Did you have walls up against the church?
It wasn't that. It was just that, I mean, I was involved my mom, out of course, my mom, which was interesting because she wasn't, we were never brought up, I was never brought up in church or anything, but my mom, for whatever reason, when I was 17 years old, she was just like, you need to get involved in church somehow. And so I joined a church in our town, a dance ministry. Yeah, I wasn't serious about it. I mean, I took it seriously, but I wasn't like doing anything church like, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but anyway, like I think what happened was once I went into college and I was just under the influence. I had different views, different ideas, and I had different questions, like different question marks in that area. And so I kind of was distancing myself away from it, actually. And of course, like I like to call it, I had an opportunistic relationship with God because I knew God was real. Because I definitely felt His presence a lot of times, and I knew that I was being protected a lot of times because I could feel it. It's a feeling type thing.
Hmm.
Um, but I still had a lot of questions, but the relationship was, oh, I need to get this booking, let me pray. I need to get this scholarship, let me pray, and it will fall through. So it was very
Yeah, you were you
opportunistic.
were you were dealing with like a ATM kind of relationship with the divine.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It was very ATM, and so I was distant because I was influenced by different views and being involved with different people that had different views, and so I was just somewhat distant, very distant, and I wouldn't say walls were up, but I mean it could have been actually. Now that I think about it, it probably was a wall that was holding me back slightly.
Mm.
But once I realized that I went to this audition, it was for Beauty and the Beast, and happened to be that a church was happening 2 doors down at Pearl Studios.
Mm.
What? Unbelievable. I assumed it was a meeting of artists, because I mean, in all actuality, that's what they are. They're a community, a family of people that are together, that support each other, uplift each other.
Mhm.
But once I realized, I said that prayer, and I said the only way that will happen is if you place me, and I realized He placed me there. So after the audition, I said, what do I have to lose? And someone from that group of people came over and prayed for me in the audition. So I was like, okay, I felt like I definitely had to go over. And so
Yeah.
I went over there, and the rest is history. And I think from developing that relationship, that's where I felt that love again, that
Isn't it?
true agape.
Yes. I mean, isn't it wonderful that you can be heading in one direction in life? You could walk into a building to be cast for a show and then receive, and you think that that's the gift. You think that that's the gift. This is what I came for. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And then somehow the divine
Come
gives
on.
you something more than what you bargained for. Um, gives
Yes,
you gives you something that's everlasting.
come
Um,
on.
that because you and I we've worked 3 month contracts together, 4 month contracts. These contracts are very
Yeah,
finite in that we go into rehearsals, we go into tech, we put the show up, we
yeah.
sing our show, we go home, rest, you come back to sing the show again, and then there's always an end of contract. But isn't it wonderful? And I'm about to get preachy on all the listeners, but it's wonderful when you're in a place where you're drinking from a well that will never run dry.
Right.
Like I'm
Yes.
so grateful that God's contract in my life is never up. No one's ever going to
Amen.
come and ask me for a renewal. No one's going to ask me if I intend to stay. No one's going to come in and say there's somebody that sings higher notes. They've got three pirouettes instead of your two. There's
Come
never going
on.
to be any time when this contract's going to be suspended or end. It is something that will be with me and for me and through me for the long haul. And here's the
Yes.
caveat that you said earlier: if I choose to let it in. Now,
Mm.
I
Yes.
want to get. I know that we're not into self glory and self praise and congratulations in contexts like these, but I do have to speak to you about your willingness to go with your flow. Meaning that you could have said, all right, this audition was really, really cute today. I got laundry to do. This, this audition was really cute. I sang the best I could. I got to go work this survival job. You could have passed that opportunity that was 2 doors down and just went on your merry way. You made a conscious decision to stop
Mm.
there.
Wow.
Um, and I really want to drive this home for listeners because it's not really about, for me personally, it's not about getting anybody into a church space or telling them how to feel or how to believe or anything like that. I want everyone just open to the
The
possibility that,
willingness.
yes, the openness and willingness to say, hey, this is something that I didn't see coming. This is something that I didn't bargain for. This is something that I wasn't even in the mood for. But for some reason, something inside me is telling me to step through the threshold of this door. And I'm just going to follow that flow just to see. Because I think that sometimes God, I used several different languages. So God, source, universe, the great magnet. I think that sometimes we think that those great things and that great spirit is waiting behind a closed door and that it's hard to get to. But oftentimes the door is open. The music is coming
Mm.
into the streets.
Come
There's a
on.
giant neon sign over the door saying, "Enter, enter, enter, enter,
Enter,
enter
enter,
in."
enter. With
Yes,
arrows, like.
and we're like, "Oh, that sign is really, really flashy, but I don't know what I should do." And
Mm.
I have a lot of conversation. This is your interview, by the way. But I have to say that I have several conversations with so many people who are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know, why did this happen to me? And they're standing almost with sunshades right under the neon sign that's flashing enter.
Mm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
part of what my life's work is to point to the person in a very loving and compassionate way and say, baby doll, baby boy, take the glasses off because the sun is shining on your face right now.
Yeah. At the end of the day, what's usually holding those people back is fear. A fear of the invitation, a fear of accepting the invitation. And one thing that I had to learn, is that fear isn't real. Fear is an illusion. Even biblically speaking, God, he even says, "For I haven't given you the spirit of fear." He's basically letting people know that ain't me. I did not. That's if you feeling that is not me. You know, He's
Let's
given us.
I do this often in the podcast, and there's often moments with the guests where I have to stop and just
Mhm.
anchor this thought. Anchor this is beyond a thought. Anchor this moment in saying that if you're hearing the voice of fear, God is saying, "Boo, that ain't me."
Exactly. Honey, boo, that ain't me. That's not me. I had to learn, Andre, I had to learn fear is an illusion. It's an illusion. And it's a tactic that the enemy tries to use. The enemy tries to use against you. Why? Because the thing is that we have been designed and destined for success. That's just what it is. We have been designed and destined not to fail. Okay? Our future has already been written. We are kings and queens on this land. We own this land. And the thing about the enemy, he knows that, and he doesn't want us to know it. So because you're a threat to him, what the enemy tries to do is reflect on you what he feels about you. So if you're feeling anxious, the enemy feels anxious about you. If you're feeling depressed, that's what he feels about you. You make him feel depressed because that's how big your calling is. That's what you're going to amount. That's how much you're going to amount to. It's all an illusion. It's not real. And so once we're able to jump and hurdle over that concept of knowing that fear is not a part of who we are, it's not a part of our DNA. It's not. Once we're able to receive that, envelop that into our heart, then we can conquer. We can hurdle it. We can conquer it, okay? We have a power. We have an authority to overcome that. That's what we were birthed with.
We just don't always step into it.
Yeah. We don't don't know how to, a lot of us, we don't know how to activate that power.
The power of love.
We don't know how to utilize it. Exactly. And it all stems from love. It all stems from it.
Yeah, one of my great spiritual teachers often says from the Course in Miracles, which is based loosely on the teachings of the Bible, it says you can only operate from one of two places in life: fear or love. And I often have to check in with myself and see whether I'm coming from the spirit of fear or the spirit of love. And I'm telling you very honestly, like there are times when I read the Huffington Post and other news outlets that I encounter, and I have to almost, if I don't check myself, I'll spin out and start treating people as others. I start treating people like they're not part of the same human family that I'm part of. And in those moments that I'm doing those things, I'm operating from the spirit or place of fear. Not as they say in scripture, that place of love, power, and sound mind.
The sound mind.
That's what's been given. Not the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and sound mind.
Power and sound mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those things are all in our hands. And I want for every listener to just feel that right now, that they have been given love, power, and a sound mind. And you may not feel it right now, but the gift to be opened. It's almost like if you it's like shaking the gifts under a Christmas tree. If you started rattling that box and you knew that box had inside love, power, and a sound mind, would you not rip that bad boy open?
Right. Exactly.
Would you not rip it open?
If you enjoyed today's podcast, I want to invite you to like, share, comment, and tweet about this episode. Your comments help me to make this podcast the best that it can be and continue to share the love. Don't forget to pass this episode on to someone that you may know that might need an extra pick-me-up as well. Also, feel free to visit lovecityarts.org. We've got more episodes, monthly giveaways, upcoming in-person events, uplifting blogs, and a book club on the way. Love City exists to uplift artists, the ones that love them, and the inner creative genius in us all. Thanks so much for listening, and stay tuned for another uplifting episode from the Love City Arts Podcast.